This week, I want to talk about my title of the sermon, which is Summertime and the Living is... I don't know, how's the living? How is it? It's going well? You happy? Things good? It's not easy. If you're older, you're probably stuck at home. If you have children, you're probably stuck at home. If you're working, you're struggling with how to be at home and at work at the same time. If you're working from home, you're struggling with how to work from home with kids or with parents or people you have to take care of. And sure, it's much easier than it was. We're not in absolute lockdown like we used to be, and progressively we're getting more and more comfortable with being out and being about. Someone said, I'm going to eat on a patio this week. Oh, that's great. Others have said, we're doing things, and I think people should. Some people. But I want to tell you, my experience over the last week has worried me. In life cycle events, people seem to feel that whatever your rule is at home or in your life, it's okay to just bring it to everyone else. Whenever we get together, now we're dealing with not the rules or the rules, we're dealing with your rules. And it only takes one, as we know. And some people, literally, without a mask, close talking, trying to hug, spit talking, breathing, coughing, refusing to distance. You have to keep backing up from people. And we're talking about people who know the difference between what is expected and what is not. It's not they're oblivious, because they go, oh, right, you're doing that thing. Doing that thing. I'm trying to stay alive. I'd rather not have COVID. I'd rather not be a carrier. I don't know if I've had it yet or not. Many of us don't know. We're probably going to find out eventually. And yeah, I want to tell you, the news is much better than I thought. Not I, we. The ICU is not overflowing. Cases are at a manageable level. Outbreaks have lessened. Yes, we are outdoors. We're segregated. We're separated. We're keeping our distances. We've ingrained a lot of the social distancing or a lot of the physical distancing practices into our everyday lives. Some people still try to fist bump. Someone tried to shake my hand, and when I said, no, I'm not shaking hands, he said, you're still doing that? Still? Yeah, still. Because COVID's going to be around a long time. Risk management has improved significantly. That took a lot of hard work. So, where are we in the summer? Well, luckily, we're able to be outside. That makes a huge difference. It gives us a sense of connection. We can socially distance. We can physically distance. We can do our best to maintain the rules. But it's not over. And this leads us to what we struggle with is, what are you doing for high holidays? So let me just say, I've talked about it last week. I posted it on JFK. It's in my sermon. If we knew that absolutely everybody would follow the rules, and the rules are lengthy and extensive, they are not easy rules to follow. But if we knew everybody would follow those rules, well, we probably could do something in person. But the question I'm asking myself is, do we want to take a risk of being online for high holidays and people being disappointed? Or do we want to take a risk of opening for high holidays and having someone die? I know where I stand on that. And so long as that risk exists, either because of COVID or because of people behaving badly during COVID, or because the rules are just too onerous for people, if any of those are in place, unless there is an absolute clear need to be in a room together for Tefila, for prayer, It's forbidden. Because being in synagogue is a place where you come to socialize, pray, engage, experience, social. Most of us have stopped doing the social. Whether you pray or not, it's your business. You can do that at home. Whether you engage with other people or not at a distance, that's your business. But in synagogue itself, it is not designed for PPE, for protective equipment. It is not designed for distance. It is not designed for spread out. Our buildings are not made to have a third of our capacity spread out over 10,000 square feet. And for those who have started to reopen, I've spoken to quite a few, the common denominator, and our president communicated the same thing, the common denominator is it's a service, it's synagogue, it has the minyan, it has the cantor, it has the rabbi, but it has no soul. And that is because there are no kids running around. There are no voices of young people. There's no new fiance being introduced to the group at shul. There's no baby coming to shul. There aren't the elderly who are coming to shul. Who is it? It's the middle. And what are they coming for? To pray, to be in shul. And what experience do you get in shul? Well, I'll tell you. If we were to open for high holidays, and if is a big word, because it's unlikely, then the services would have to be short. Because what we've discovered is people can't sustain their good behavior long enough, or washrooms, or other social aspects of synagogue. The longer you stay together, the more likely you are to have a breakdown. So they'll be short. And if they're short, that means the purpose of the services is to fulfill those things which have to be done in a quorum, in a group. And if we do that, I'm not a trained monkey. I don't give 3 sermons in one morning. I'm not about to stand here and read my notes on high holidays 3 times so that 3 different groups of people can hear the same sermon. Sermon will be live streamed. Prayer in person with a few people, if needed, maybe. But the experience, the things that we connect to, the choir, you're not having choir during services. Choirs need 16 feet apart because they sing. I need, who knows, I'm loud. I need 20 feet apart. A chauffeur needs maybe 100 feet. How are we going to do that? Okay, everyone will come up with their creative solution. I'm not telling anybody what to do, not even our synagogue. We're not telling you what to do. But we're going to tell you that when we know what we're doing, which is soon, we want you to understand that the decision is going to be made based on whether we feel it is safe. Nothing more, nothing less. This is a year. This is not forever. But death and loss and regret and guilt, that's forever. There are a lot of people who have put so much time into this congregation who don't deserve to feel obligated to attend. And then perhaps never again. It's not an easy conversation to have, but we're having it. Summertime and the living is complicated. Complicated by the fact that it feels much easier these days, but that's not going to be forever. And I'm not a doctor, I'm not an expert, but everything I've heard is we're lucky here in Ontario. We've managed it as well as possible. We have people who are dedicated to helping. We're a very lucky society. We've reached out, we've taken care of so many people. But it's still here, and it's present. And when the news is that the NHL, the National Hockey League, would like to restart, but one of their premier stars, Austin Matthews, is diagnosed with COVID, I think you now understand what that means. What it means is that a deliberate attempt to reconvene on an intimate social level will have casualties. There's a lot of talk about what happens to school in September. There's probably going to be some kind of risk strategy that we have to employ. But I don't know that this is the place to re-employ it. Hopefully the news keeps improving, the death rate keeps going down, the ICUs are empty, life goes back to normal, and all of us wait a little while until this passes. V'asu li mikdash v'shachanti betocham. This brilliant text in which, upon the dedication of the temple, Moses quotes God by saying, God has told me, make for me a temple, and I will dwell among you. In other words, build something for me in the camp, and I will be part of you. The word asuli mikdash means make for me a sacred space, and I will dwell among you. I truly feel that that text was not written in anticipation of what I'm about to tell you, but I think it's exactly the right thing. Va'asuli mikdash, make for yourself a sacred space and live within it. Find the new sacred. The sacred in our life used to be very varied. Each of us made choices about what was sacred. The opera, Mervish theater, I'd never miss an Al Green performance. Synagogue, my sacred spaces. United Bakers, House of Chan. All these are sacred spaces to people. I go there every Thursday. I go to the gym every Monday. I do this. I have a ritual. I have rules. This is what I follow. This is how we celebrate. This is what together looks like. This is what sacred space looks like. Family space, love space, work space. Nope. It's time, friends. Va'asuli mikdash, make for yourself a new sacred space and dwell among them. And for many of you, the camera and your screen is a sacred space. And maybe technology wasn't always a sacred space for you, but it's become that. And it's become an opportunity for us to connect through the sacred space. We have made a mikdash, a new center. And it may be your phone, maybe your tablet, maybe your computer, maybe your TV, whatever it is. This is the new sacred space which we dwell within. But hear this, it is no less sacred. And if high holidays are on your television instead of in the seat, with all the risk inherent in coming, just remember, your home is your mikdash. Your home is your sacred place. Maybe it wasn't always, but because of COVID, we've recreated our sacred places. We can't go to the opera. If we go to movies, it's a dull experience. Sporting events, as I mentioned, have not reopened yet. All those other sacred spaces, school, work, it's all challenging. But your home is the new Mishkan, is the new place in which your spirituality, your physicality, your love, your emotions, and your hope reside. Build yourself a sacred space and dwell within it. We are in what I call the doldrums. The doldrums is what Ezekiel says, Va'ani betoch hagolah, I am in the middle of exile. I am in the middle of nowhere land. I am neither indoors hiding from COVID, nor am I fully outdoors experiencing summer. I am not able to enjoy the weather without worrying about what the wind carries with it. Summertime and the living is scary and warm and lovely. So what do we do? Let me take you on a little journey for a little while, and today in a world premiere. No one's ever heard this before. No one. You know how I know? Because I'm going to read something that I wrote that no one's ever heard before. It's brand new. There's a place in the North Atlantic called the Sargasso Sea. Now, if you've ever been to the Sargasso Sea, you know that it's a part of the ocean that is in the middle of the four major currents of water. And whereas normally when you call something a sea, it is bounded by land, this one is bounded by water, except the water on all four sides is different than the water in the middle. The Gulf Stream, the North Atlantic, the Canary Current, and the North Atlantic Equatorial Current, they're a clockwise series of circulating currents that affect everything, whether it be weather, temperature, wind. Everything is affected by the currents. You probably have heard of them. Many of you have heard of the Gulf Current, the Gulf Stream, because that affects the east coast of the United States most prominently. It's approximately 700 by 2,000 miles, this patch of North Atlantic. And the thing about the patch of the North Atlantic is you're in the Atlantic, which is a dark blue ocean. Pacific is even darker. The Atlantic Ocean, and there is this patch of still water. It's so still that it is full of sargassum, which is a seaweed that grows in that area. And it's not only so still, it's clear. Sometimes the depth of the water is clear up to 200 feet. In the middle of the ocean, there's a sea that is, as I mentioned, 700 by 2,000 miles. And if you go there, you will see something extraordinary. The sea of life, the grass that covers it, creates harbor for all kinds of animals. It's a nursery. It's a breeding ground. It's a place where predators come to hunt. The amount of life in the Sargasso Sea is extraordinary. It's this patch of different colored water with different ecosystem in the middle of the North Atlantic. Now, sounds beautiful. Sounds like a place I'd love to visit and go see and explore. But if you ever go there, especially if you were in a sailing ship, which depends on wind, and by mistake, you get pushed into the Sargasso Sea, where the wind is almost non-existent because the currents drive the wind in other directions, 4 different directions, but not the middle. You are stuck. You are in what's known as the doldrums. You are in the Dead Sea. It's not dead from life, it's dead from movement. And I want to just share briefly a short little text from Herman Melville, poet, writer, author of Moby Dick most famously, in which he writes about what it's like to be in the doldrums, and he tells a story about a gentleman who's dying on a ship. A captain, co-captain is dying on a ship called Tom Deadlight. 1810, Melville writes about this British ship, and he is on the deck, tied up in a hammock. He's in delirium, dying, and Melville writes the poem that comes out of his mind at the time. And he says, farewell and adieu to you noble hearties. Farewell and adieu to you ladies of Spain. For I've received orders to sail for the dead man, but hope with the grand fleet to see you again. I hove my ship to with main topsail aback, boys. I hove my ship to for to strike soundings clear. The black scud a-flying, but by God's blessing, damn me, right up the channel for the dead man I'll steer. I've worried through the waters that are called the doldrums, and growled at Sargasso that clogs while ye grope. Blast my eyes, but the light ship is hid by the mist, lads. Flying Dutchman, odds, bobs, off the Cape of Good Hope. 1810, Herman Melville. If you are like me, you need wind in your sails to keep moving. I don't like the doldrums. The sea is beautiful. You could see up to 200 meters in the Atlantic. Life abounds like nowhere else in the ocean. There's a massive blanket of floating seaweed. It's one of the only seaweeds that generates itself on top of the water, doesn't need to be attached like kelp to the bottom. It floats, it clogs boats, as you heard, but you're stuck. One of the most powerful scenes in Moby Dick for me, and the movie was in 1956 with Gregory Peck and Ray Bradbury and John Huston and Orson Welles. What an incredible cast. I urge you to watch the movie if you can. To create the old-time effect, they actually took the color version of the film and they overlaid it with a black and white version, and the two together created this patina, which is really, really extraordinary. And Melville, in the book of Moby Dick tells the story of the whaleboat that Picard stuck in the doldrums, in which there's no wind for days and days on end, and all Captain Ahab wants to do is hunt the white whale. He's obsessed, and here he is, helpless without wind. And I kind of feel in some ways we're a little bit helpless without wind right now. We just have to wait it out. I don't know. It's the doldrums. We're sort of nowhere. Let's do things that are great. Spend time with loved ones safely. Make plans safely. Be outside safely. Use sunscreen. Maybe the wind will pick up and we'll get out of this beautiful place called the doldrums and we'll get back to life. Summertime and the living is hopeful. Shabbat Shalom.